My name is Teresa, and I am 35 years old. I've been with Marcus for 4 years, living together in my condo for the last 2, and until last month, I thought our life was stable in the quiet, unremarkable way that makes you believe nothing dangerous is hiding underneath. I had my cat, Oliver, long before I ever met Marcus. 8 years, orange tabby, loud purr, zero respect for personal space. He slept on my chest every night my dad was in hospice, and I never once questioned choosing him first. So when Marcus sat me down on the couch one evening and said, "Babe, we need to talk about Oliver," my stomach dropped. He didn't say it casually. He said it like he'd rehearsed it. Shoulders squared, hands clasped, voice low and serious. I asked what about him, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. Marcus sighed and rubbed his face like he was exhausted by something he'd apparently been carrying alone. He told me he'd been suffering in silence, that his allergies were getting worse, that the sneezing and itchy eyes were becoming unbearable. Here's the thing. In 4 years, he had never once mentioned allergies. Not a single sniffle, not a complaint, not even a joke. He'd slept next to Oliver, played with him, let him sit on his lap. But suddenly, now he couldn't live like this anymore. I asked if he'd seen a doctor. He waved it off. He didn't need a doctor to know he was allergic. He told me he loved me, but it was him or the cat, and I needed to choose. The ultimatum hit hard. Oliver wasn't just a pet. He'd been with me through grief, through layoffs, through loneliness. Marcus knew that. He watched me cry into that cat's fur more than once, but he said it anyway, like Oliver was just an inconvenience I'd eventually outgrow. I told Marcus I needed time to think. The look on his face was strange. Not relief, not understanding, irritation. He asked how much time, like he expected a deadline. A week, maybe. This was a big decision. He huffed, stood up, and walked into the bedroom. That night, he slept on the couch, making exaggerated sniffling noises every time Oliver walked past, like he was performing discomfort for an invisible audience. It didn't feel genuine. It felt staged. By morning, I wasn't thinking about choosing between my boyfriend and my cat anymore. I was thinking about why he suddenly wanted my cat gone. The more I replayed that conversation, the less it made sense. Allergies don't usually announce themselves with ultimatums. They show up gradually, inconveniently, in sneezes and doctor visits and trial and error solutions. What Marcus gave me wasn't concern. It was a deadline. And that bothered me more than anything else. I didn't confront him again. I didn't ask more questions. I did what I've always done when something feels off. I paid attention. For the next few days, I worked from home more. Marcus didn't notice. He left earlier than usual, came back later, always with a reason that sounded reasonable if you didn't look too closely. Grocery runs, where he returned with almost nothing. Phone calls taken in the bathroom with the shower running. His phone, which he'd never locked before, suddenly had a password. When I walked into a room, he'd angle the screen away like it was instinct. Oliver, meanwhile, was fine, curling up next to Marcus on the couch whenever he forgot to push him away. No sneezing, no itchy eyes, no reaction at all. That was when I called my friend Elise. Elise works at an allergy clinic. We've known each other since college, and she's the kind of person who listens before she speaks. I told her what was happening, how Marcus had suddenly decided he was allergic to my cat after 4 years of living together, how something about it felt manufactured. I asked her a question I never thought I'd ask out loud. Was there any way to test someone without them knowing, just to confirm if they were actually allergic? There was a pause on the line, then a sigh. Technically, yes, she said. Ethically, it's a gray area, but if you bring me a hair sample, I can run a basic panel. Nothing official, just enough to tell you if this is real. That night, while Marcus showered, I stood in the bathroom staring at his hairbrush like I was about to cross some invisible line. I hated that I even felt the need to do this, hated that I was doubting someone I'd lived with for 2 years. But something in my gut wouldn't let it go. I took a few strands, sealed them in a small bag, and felt sick the entire time. 3 days later, Elise called me back. She didn't sugarcoat it. "Teresa, he's not allergic to cats, or dogs, or anything significant, really. Mild pollen sensitivity at most. We ran it twice to be sure." I sat at my desk staring at Oliver, who was batting at my shoelaces like they were his mortal enemy. "You're sure?" I asked. "I'm sure. He's lying." The word landed heavier than I expected. Lying, not exaggerating, not mistaken, lying. But why lie about allergies? That question followed me around the apartment all day. If Marcus wasn't allergic, then the ultimatum wasn't about health. It was about removal. He needed Oliver gone, and suddenly every strange detail from the last few weeks started lining up like dominoes. The late nights, the secretive calls, the way he'd started treating our home like a temporary space instead of a shared one, the urgency in his voice when he said choose. That evening, I didn't mention the test. I didn't let on that I knew anything. Marcus came home, sniffled theatrically, and complained about how hard the day had been. I nodded, cooked dinner, watched him text constantly while pretending to listen to me. That was when I noticed something else. A blue toothbrush in the cup by the sink. It wasn't mine, and it definitely wasn't his. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring at that toothbrush like it might explain itself if I gave it enough time. Blue handle, new bristles, definitely not something that had been there for months. I knew every item in that bathroom. I was the kind of person who noticed when the shampoo bottle moved an inch. I didn't say anything that night. I went to bed with Oliver curled against my side and Marcus on the edge of the mattress, scrolling through his phone in silence. At some point, he turned his screen face down when he noticed I was awake. That used to feel like courtesy. Now it felt like concealment. The next morning, Marcus left early. He said he had a meeting he couldn't miss. He kissed my forehead, grabbed his keys, and told me not to forget to think about the cat thing. His words were casual, but his eyes were already elsewhere. I waited 10 minutes after his car pulled out. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Not Marcus's, lighter, hesitant. The lock turned. My heart didn't race. It went strangely still, like it already knew what was coming. The door opened, and a woman stepped inside, holding a paper coffee cup and a grocery bag like she belonged there. She froze when she saw me standing in the living room. We stared at each other for a beat too long. "Who are you?" she asked. "I live here," I said. Her face drained of color. "Marcus said you'd be at work. He told me you were just his roommate." Roommate. The word landed like a slap. I asked her name. She said Natalie. She looked about 28, maybe younger, dressed in workout clothes, hair still damp, like she'd just come from the gym. She looked just as confused as I felt. I told her I'd been with Marcus for 4 years. She dropped the coffee. 4 years, she repeated. He told me he was single, that you were moving out soon, that the place would be ours next month. The timeline snapped into place so cleanly it made me dizzy. 3 months. That's how long she'd been seeing him. 3 months since he started complaining about allergies. 3 months since he'd become distant. 3 months since that toothbrush appeared. I pointed toward the bathroom. "Is that your toothbrush?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "The blue one. He told me to leave it there." We moved to the kitchen without discussing it, like our bodies knew this was a conversation that needed caffeine. I made coffee. She sat at the counter, gripping her cup with both hands, like it was the only solid thing left in the room. She told me everything. They met at a yoga class. He said he lived with a roommate who worked long hours and was rarely home. He said he loved cats, but his roommate wouldn't allow one because of allergies. He told her the situation was temporary. He was just waiting for the right moment to move out. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "I'm the one with the cat," I said. "He's the one who's not allergic." She stared at me. "He told me you were allergic," she said quietly. "He said that was why I couldn't come over at first." We sat there in silence, letting the full shape of the lie settle around us. He hadn't just lied to me. He hadn't just lied to her. He'd built 2 parallel stories that only worked if we never met. Natalie pulled out her phone. "I have texts," she said. "Lots of them." She showed me messages about starting fresh, about how he couldn't wait for his roommate situation to be resolved. One text from last week stood out. "Baby, just be patient. I'm handling the cat thing. We'll be together soon." I felt something inside me harden into resolve. We didn't argue about what to do next. We didn't need to. We both knew exactly who he was now. And we were done letting him control the narrative. We didn't rush it. That surprised me most about the next few hours. There was no screaming, no frantic pacing, no desperate need to explode. Natalie and I sat at my kitchen table, phones between us, quietly comparing timelines like 2 people, assembling a puzzle they already knew the ending to. Every gap filled itself in, every inconsistency smoothed out. The yoga classes that overlapped with my late work nights, the girls' nights that lined up with his unexplained absences, the sudden push to get Oliver gone so my home could become someone else's. By the time Marcus's car pulled into the parking lot that evening, we were calm in a way that felt almost eerie. Natalie stayed. That was important. I didn't want him thinking he could split us back into separate rooms and manage the fallout privately. He needed to face the whole truth at once. The door opened, and Marcus stepped inside like it was any other night. He dropped his keys, glanced toward the kitchen, and froze. His eyes flicked from me to Natalie and back again. The color drained from his face. "What's going on?" he asked. Natalie stood first. "Why don't you tell us?" she said. He tried to laugh, but it cracked halfway through. "Teresa, I can explain." I held up my hand. "Before you do, I want to ask you something simple. Are you allergic to cats?" He blinked. "What?" "Are you allergic to cats, Marcus?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then sighed like he was tired of pretending. "Look, I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. The allergy test results were on the screen, clear and impossible to misinterpret. 0 cat allergies, 0 dog allergies, mild pollen sensitivity. You lied, I said. You lied to me. You lied to her. And you tried to make me choose between you and the one thing in this house that's never betrayed me." Natalie crossed her arms. "You told me you were allergic. You told me she wouldn't allow a cat because of her allergies." His head snapped toward her. "I didn't say that." She didn't hesitate. "Yes, you did. And you said you'd be moving in with me next month." That was the moment his mask finally slipped. "You two compared notes," he snapped. "How dare you?" "How dare we?" Natalie repeated, incredulous. "You've been living a double life." He turned on me next, frustration boiling over. "You're never emotionally available. You're always working, or with that stupid cat. Natalie actually listens to me." "So you cheated instead of leaving like an adult," I said. "I needed security," he shot back. "I needed to know what I was walking into." Natalie's voice went cold. "So I was your experiment, and she was your safety net." He didn't answer. I gestured toward Oliver's food bowl in the corner. "The cat thing was cruel. You tried to erase something she loves so you could replace her." Natalie shook her head slowly. "And you lied about my allergies, too." Marcus looked genuinely startled. "You're not allergic." "I'm not allergic to cats at all," Natalie said. "I have 2 at my mom's house." The silence that followed was almost funny. He scrambled for a new angle, eyes darting between us. I was confused. "I loved you both." "You loved what we provided," I said. "I paid most of the rent. She gave you excitement. You wanted both without consequences." Natalie stepped back. "We're done, Marcus." That was when he lost control. He started throwing things. A mug shattered against the wall. A plate hit the counter and cracked in half. He shouted about betrayal, about being ganged up on, about how we'd ruined everything. I grabbed Oliver's carrier and backed toward the door. "This isn't a conversation anymore." "Where am I supposed to go?" he yelled. "Not here," Natalie said. "Definitely not here," I added. We walked out together while he stood in the middle of the apartment, shouting after us, neighbors beginning to open their doors to see what the noise was about. As we reached the parking lot, he followed, alternating between insults and begging, threatening that we'd regret this. "Good luck with that," I said, buckling Oliver into the passenger seat. Natalie gave me a tired smile. "Thank you for not letting me be the only one fooled." "Not your fault," I said. "He's very practiced." As I drove away, I saw him in the rearview mirror, standing there with nothing left to perform for. I got home that night and locked the door behind me like I was sealing something permanent. The apartment felt different immediately, quieter, lighter, like it had been waiting for the truth to clear the air. Oliver walked out of his carrier, stretched, and trotted to his food bowl like nothing dramatic had happened. That steadiness grounded me more than anything else could have. I started packing Marcus's things right away, not out of anger, but because I wanted the separation to be clean. Clothes into bags, shoes paired and stacked, toiletries lined up and boxed. While I worked, I found things I didn't expect. A credit card in his name using my address. Letters from someone named Curtis dated before Natalie. A journal tucked behind the dresser. I opened it once and regretted it immediately. Pages of pros and cons lists comparing me and Natalie like appliances. Under my name, stable income, owns condo, good credit. Under cons, boring, has cat, 2 attached. Under hers, exciting, spontaneous, fun. Under cons, unstable, student loans, might not commit. I closed it and didn't look again. I didn't need more confirmation. At 11 that night, Marcus started calling. I didn't answer. He left messages ranging from furious to pleading to accusatory. He threatened legal action. He said I couldn't lock him out. I checked the lease. My name only. He wasn't on it. He never had been. I put his boxed things outside the door and texted him one line. "Your stuff is outside. Rain's coming." He showed up at 2 a.m. with a friend I didn't recognize. They loaded bags into a car, shooting looks toward my window like I owed them something. I waved once, not to be petty, but because I felt done. The next day, his mother called. She accused me of throwing her son out like trash. I told her the truth, calmly. He cheated. He lied. He tried to force me to abandon my cat so he could move someone else in. She called it a rough patch. I called it a double life. She hung up on me. Social media tried to do what it always does. Marcus posted about being betrayed and manipulated, about how I chose an animal over a relationship. Friends piled on without context. I posted once, attaching screenshots of his texts about handling the cat thing and moving Natalie in. I wrote one sentence. The truth isn't cruel. It's just the truth. The tide turned fast. Comments disappeared. Apologies arrived privately. I didn't engage beyond that. He escalated. He showed up at my office claiming I stole his belongings. Security called me down. The police showed up. I showed screenshots. They told him it was a civil matter and escorted him out. My boss watched from the lobby and shook his head. Dodged a bullet, he said. Dodged a missile, I replied. 2 months passed. Marcus spiraled publicly and privately. Natalie and I stayed in touch. We compared notes, laughed when it felt safe, moved on separately. I heard through mutuals that Marcus lost his job, then his couch surfing arrangements, then his temper. I heard he got arrested for vandalism after keying someone's car. I didn't verify any of it. I didn't need to. The final loose end tied itself when collections called me about a card he'd hidden and never paid. I gave them his mother's address and the truth. A week later, she called to apologize. She said she saw the pattern now, that he'd done this before, that they were getting him help whether he wanted it or not. I wished her luck and meant it. My life got better in quiet ways. A promotion, a new routine, a climbing gym, a few dates that didn't feel like auditions. Then someone kind showed up. Someone who loved cats. Someone who laughed when Oliver claimed her lap the first time she came over. He's adorable, she said, scratching under his chin. I believed her. Marcus tried one last time from a new number, a long message about growth and forgiveness and second chances. I sent back a photo of Oliver asleep on my lap and blocked the number. He purred, unbothered, living his best life. Funny thing about ultimatums. When someone says it's me or the cat is probably the better choice. Oliver never lied about allergies, never cheated, never tried to manipulate my home into someone else's staging area. He just wanted chin scratches and dinner on time. I chose the cat. I chose myself. Best decision I ever made.